Ever imagined a company's story, but told by AI? And I mean not just any story, but one built from all that public data, ready to reach millions of potential investors.
Sounds pretty futuristic.
It is, and that's exactly what Bull Run Productions is doing. So today we're going deep into their unique approach.
Interesting. I know a little bit about Bull Run. They're led by CEO Charlie DeVanza, right?
That's right.
And they use AI to make podcasts and social media content about those publicly traded companies, particularly the ones listed on the NASDAQ and NYSE.
You got it. So for anyone who doesn't spend their days glued to the stock market, those are two of the biggest exchanges globally.
Right, where companies list their shares for trading. So instead of having like a whole team of analysts digging through financials and news, Bull Run has AI doing the hard work.
Precisely. Their system pulls info from all those public sources you mentioned, like company filings, press releases, news, and uses it to craft a story about each company.
So it's basically like a supercharged research assistant sifting through mountains of data in a fraction of the time a human could.
Exactly. But that makes me wonder, can an algorithm really get the heart of a company? I mean, there's got to be more than just numbers and data points, right?
You're absolutely right. And it seems Bull Run gets this because they bring in the human element too. After the AI generates the initial content, they have a team of actual people review it, fine-tune it, make sure it's accurate, and add that human touch.
So no robots taking over just yet, which is a relief. I was picturing a world of, like, emotionless bots handling investor relations.
Maybe someday, but right now, Bull Run seems to be aiming for that sweet spot between AI's efficiency and good old human judgment.
Gotcha. So they're letting the tech handle the tedious stuff and freeing up their team to focus on the things AI isn't quite as good at.
Exactly.
I can see how this could really shake things up. But I'm also thinking about the potential downsides. If you only use public data, won't there be blind spots? What about stuff that's not out there, like insights from the company's inner circle, their culture, that sort of thing?
That's a great point, and it's something Bull Run addresses directly in their disclaimer. They make it very clear their content isn't financial advice, and people should do their own research.
So they're basically saying, hey, this is a starting point, not the whole story.
Exactly.
Good reminder that no matter how fancy the tech gets, you've always got to think critically, and especially when it comes to investing. Never take things at face value, right?
Absolutely. In a world overflowing with information, especially about finances, being able to sort the good from the bad is crucial. You've got to verify what you see. Multiple sources, always.
So we've talked about how Bull Run makes their content with AI and that human check.
Yeah.
But how do they actually get this out to investors?
That's where their social media strategy comes in, and it's pretty extensive.
Yeah.
We're talking Twitter, or X as it is now, Facebook groups, Discord, Reddit, even LinkedIn. It's like they're covering all the bases when it comes to online investors.
Wow, talk about maximizing your reach. But managing all those platforms has got to be a lot, right?
Oh, for sure. Tailoring messages for all those different audiences, keeping the quality consistent, and figuring out if it's even working, that's a whole other challenge.
Sounds like they're trailblazers, kind of going into uncharted territory.
You could say that.
But they do have a growing list of happy customers, right?
They do. Companies like, let me see, LPTH, Mara, Math, UNCY, Mass, Vino, DYAI, and Aimed have all used their services.
That's quite the lineup.
Yeah. Now, I don't have details on those specific cases.
Sure.
But it shows there's definitely interest in this whole AI-driven approach to investor relations.
I'd love to hear what those companies think. What are the benefits? Have they seen a difference in investor engagement or even their stock?
Those are great questions. I encourage you to dig into that. Maybe there are case studies out there, or you could even reach out to those companies directly and ask about their experiences with Bull Run.
Not a bad idea. So we've covered how Bull Run creates content using AI, their focus on human review, and that massive social media strategy. They're definitely pushing the boundaries of how companies talk to investors. But what does this all mean for the bigger financial picture?
That's the big question, and it's something we'll definitely explore as we keep going. But before we do, let's get into some specifics.
Love it. Let's see this AI in action. All right, so we know Bull Run uses AI to break down tons of data and make content, but what does that content actually look like?
Well, they do a few things. They create podcasts, kind of like this one, giving an audio rundown of a company.
Okay.
Those podcasts usually include like summaries of their financials, key things that have happened and what they see for the future, all from that public info we talked about.
So like an earnings call, but way more approachable and less boring, probably.
Exactly. Think of it as a way to get up to speed on a company without having to go through all those complicated reports.
Right. Makes sense.
Do you want a deep dive podcast like this? Contact Bull Run by Charlie DeVanzo.
And then they have social media posts, customized for each platform.
Gotcha. So like on Twitter or X now, what would that be?
Yeah, so they might share quick stats about a company or news bites, the kind of thing that grabs your attention. But then on LinkedIn, it might be more in-depth stuff, focusing on bigger industry trends or updates about the company's leadership.
So they're trying to reach investors wherever they hang out online, using the right format and platform for each. Makes sense.
Exactly. It's all about making this financial stuff easier to understand and, well, more interesting. They also make visual things like infographics and short videos.
Oh, I get that.
Yeah.
I'm a visual person, so seeing a chart or graph about a company's growth just makes more sense to me than reading about it.
I hear you. Visuals can be super powerful. They simplify the complicated stuff, highlight the important trends, and make all that data feel more relatable.
Definitely. So they're creating all this different content with AI. But what's the goal? Are they just trying to, pump up a stock price, or is it something more?
Well, they say they want to increase awareness and understanding about these publicly traded companies.
Okay.
They're not giving financial advice, like we said earlier, but they are trying to give investors the information they need to make smart decisions.
So it's about making information more accessible. I mean, in the past, you'd need a whole team of analysts or a pricey subscription to some financial data service to get these insights. But now, anyone with the internet can potentially access this.
That's a really good point. It really makes you think about how technology is changing how we get and use financial information.
It also makes me think about what happens to traditional financial analysts and advisors. If AI can do so much of the legwork, what's left for the human experts?
That's the question everyone's asking, and honestly, there isn't an easy answer. As AI gets more sophisticated, the financial industry will likely keep changing too.
Right.
Maybe we'll see a shift towards jobs that need both, technical know-how and human judgment, where analysts use AI as a tool to get better at what they do, not to replace them entirely.
Like a co-pilot situation. I like that better than the whole robots taking over the world thing.
I get it. It's natural to worry about how technology affects us. But historically, new tech has always created new opportunities, new industries, even while it disrupts the old ones.
So even if AI changes the face of finance, it doesn't necessarily mean humans are out of the picture, right? It's more about adapting and finding ways to work together.
Exactly. So let's move on and talk about some of the specific good things companies say they're seeing from using Bull Run.
Okay, let's hear about some success stories. Are we talking about stocks skyrocketing and overnight wins?
Well, I wouldn't go that far. Bull Run does highlight, their satisfied clients on their website, but they don't say anything specific about, stock prices going up. And it's important to remember, just because a company's stock does well after using Bull Run doesn't mean it was because of them.
Yeah, makes sense. So what are some of the real tangible benefits companies have said they've gotten?
One of the big ones is increased investor engagement. So after using Bull Run's content, companies have seen more people visiting their websites, more interaction on social media, and more investors reaching out. It seems like the content's doing a good job reaching people and making them interested.
Yeah, if you make your content engaging and it's easy for investors to learn about your company, you'd expect them to be more interested.
Exactly. And then there's increased visibility. With their huge social media presence, Bull Run can really put a spotlight on companies that might otherwise struggle to be seen.
Right.
Especially smaller companies or those in industries that aren't as trendy.
That's huge. It's so easy to get lost in the noise nowadays. It's almost like having a dedicated PR team working all the time to get your name out there.
You could say that. It's about using technology to make a company's message louder and reach more people. And another benefit that pops up a lot is potential cost savings.
Okay, how so?
Making high-quality financial content can get really expensive, especially if you're hiring a team of writers, designers, social media people, all that. But by automating some of that work with AI, Bull Run can offer their services at a better price.
That's a good point, especially for smaller companies who don't have a ton of money to spend. It could help level the playing field, giving them access to resources that were out of reach before.
It's an interesting possibility, for sure. But important to remember, AI isn't magic. Just because you're using it to make content doesn't guarantee success.
Sure.
The content still has to be good, relevant, engaging, and has to be part of a bigger plan that aligns with the company's goals.
So it's not about just throwing AI at the problem and hoping for the best. You have to use it strategically.
Exactly. Now, while there are potential upsides to a service like Bull Run, it's not a perfect fit for everyone. Some companies might not like the idea of giving an AI control of their message, even with humans checking it.
Yeah.
Others might need a more tailored approach.
So it's not really about whether AI is good or bad for investor relations. It's about finding what works best for each company.
Well said. And that brings us back to something we mentioned before, the limits of only relying on public information.
Right. We talked about how that could create those blind spots. What would be some real-world examples of that?
Well, think about it. Public info often just shows what happened in the past and what's happening right now. It doesn't really capture the details of how a company works internally, their future plans, or how their industry is really doing.
So it's like trying to predict the future, but only looking at what's already happened.
Yeah, kind of. There's so much valuable stuff that's not in those public files or press releases.
Yeah.
Like internal memos, what people in the industry are saying behind the scenes, or the instincts of an executive who's been around forever.
An algorithm couldn't really pick up on that.
Not necessarily, but we have to remember AI is always getting better. There are already systems that can analyze how people feel in text, find patterns in data that humans might miss, even make predictions based on what happened in the past.
So there are limits to what AI can do today, but those might get smaller and smaller in the future.
Exactly. We're still in the early days of AI, so who knows what the future holds. But it's pretty safe to say AIs will become even more important in finance, and what it can do will only grow.
That's exciting, but also a little bit scary. But I guess that's technology for you, right? Always a mix of good and unknown.
Absolutely. So let's finish up this part by addressing the big question. The financial impact for companies that use Bull Run.
Oh yeah, the bottom line. Do they actually see a return on what they're spending?
Well, that's where it gets a little fuzzy. Like I said, Bull Run doesn't make any specific promises about how a company's stock will perform, and it's really hard to separate what they do from all the other things that affect a company's value.
So we can't say for sure that using Bull Run will make your stock go up.
Right. But more and more research is showing a link between good investor relations and good financial results.
Okay.
Companies that are open, communicate well, and actively engage with investors tend to be valued higher and have an easier time getting funding.
So Bull Run might not be a guaranteed moneymaker, but it could help a company's overall financial health by improving how they relate to investors.
That's a good way to put it. In the end, deciding to use a service like Bull Run is a strategic choice. Each company has to look at their situation, their goals, and how much risk they're comfortable with.
Makes sense. It sounds like we've covered a ton here. We've looked at the kind of content Bull Run makes, the potential pros and cons of their approach, and the bigger picture of AI and finance. But there's one big question we haven't really tackled. What's next for this type of technology?
That's a great point, and it's something that a lot of people are thinking about, investors, analysts, the whole industry. Why don't we focus on that next? Let's explore what might happen as AI keeps getting better.
Sounds good to me. Let's put on our future thinking caps and see where this AI road takes us. All right, we've talked about what Bull Run's up to now, but zoom out a bit. Where could this all be headed?
Now that's where it gets really interesting. As AI gets even smarter, well, we could see it doing even more in finance. Imagine AI that doesn't just analyze text and numbers, but can, read a CEO's body language during a presentation, or even figure out the overall mood of the market online.
Whoa, that's getting pretty sci-fi. It's like AI could become this sixth sense for investors, picking up on things we'd never noticed.
Exactly. And think about this. AI could personalize investment info in a way we've never seen before. Imagine getting stock recommendations tailored to your risk level, what you want to achieve, even your ethics.
Okay, that would be incredible. It's like having a personal AI advisor right in your pocket. But there have to be some downsides, right?
Yeah.
As AI gets more powerful, what are the risks?
Of course there are. One big concern is bias. AI learns from data, right?
Right.
So if that data already has bias built in, let's say gender bias in hiring, that bias could get amplified by the AI.
That's a really good point. Like saying garbage in, garbage out, you put bad data in, you get bad results out.
Exactly. Another worry is jobs. As AI gets better at complicated tasks, it could end up doing some of the jobs that financial analysts, advisors, even portfolio managers do now.
That's a tough one. Automation could free us up to do more creative, strategic work, but it could also mean people lose jobs and things get even more unequal.
It's complicated, no easy answers. But it's something we have to think about now, to be ready for the future and make sure everyone benefits from AI, not just a few.
So it's not just about the technology, but about how we use it and what it does to society.
Exactly. We need to figure out how to use AI's power, but also handle those ethical and social questions it brings up.
Feels like we're at a crossroads, right? We've got this amazing technology that could totally change finance, make investing easier and better, but we also have to be careful, make sure it's used the right way.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
It all comes down to this. The future of AI and finance is still up in the air, but it's a future that we're building right now with the choices we're making.
Wow, this whole conversation has been eye-opening. I feel like I've learned a ton about AI and finance. We've gone from the basics to the big picture, the future implications, everything.
I'm glad you found it helpful. Remember, knowledge is power, and the more we know about these new technologies, the better we'll be able to handle the changes they bring.
Totally agree. But before we sign off, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about.
Always good to have a final thought. What's on your mind?
So as AI becomes more and more a part of our lives, what role do you think human intuition and experience will have in financial decisions? Are we going to rely too much on algorithms, or will there always be a place for that gut feeling, that instinct, the art of investing?
That is such a great question, and one that will probably be debated for a long time as AI keeps changing. Maybe the key is finding the right balance, using AI, but also remembering the value of human insight and experience.
Like a human-machine dream team, using the best of both to make smarter, more insightful decisions.
Exactly. Embracing what's possible while also trusting our own judgment and values.
Love that. All right, everyone, that's a wrap on our deep dive into Bull Run Productions and this whole world of AI-driven company stories. We've covered so much today, from how AI actually creates content to what it could mean for the future of finance. I hope you've all come away with a better understanding of this crazy, fast-moving field, and maybe even some questions to ponder as we head into the future.
Absolutely. Remember, folks, the future of finance is being shaped right now. Be curious, stay informed, and most importantly, be a part of it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Until next time, keep exploring and happy investing.
Do you want a deep dive podcast like this? Contact Bull Run by Charlie DeVanzo.